are basically trying to make ends meet back home in New York. You've got Donatello. He is now a tech advisor who's on call to give help to people who have PC problems and things like that. Mikey now works as a children's entertainer, doing things such as birthday parties, and he does these birthday parties whilst wearing a giant, massive turtle head as a disguise. So he's a turtle dressed as a turtle doing birthday parties. Leo has retreated to Central America to help villagers from bandits whilst learning how to become a better leader, as I just mentioned. And then we get to Raphael, who has been spending his nights dressed up as a metal-clad nightmare called the Night Watcher, which he keeps secret from his other brothers. He's become like this kind of like vigilante who stalks criminals at night. And April and Casey have their own business tracking down rare antiques. And that is actually where we get a lot of the plot from April tracking down some ancient antiques for a gentleman called Max Winters, who is an immortal ancient general who has hired the Foot Clan led by Karai to help him find 13 monsters. 3,000 years ago, the general opened a portal that made him immortal. Open a portal to make him immortal. That rhymed, but it wasn't intentional. So when he did open this portal, he also released 13 monsters, and his 4 sibling generals were turned to stone in the process. Now, in the present, he has found a way to reanimate his statue generals and starts to hunt down the 13 monsters so he can become mortal. Although his siblings have other plans to rule and quickly double-cross him because they don't want to be mortal, they want to stay immortal and remain strong statue creatures, I presume, to rule without him. So the turtles must regroup at a time when they couldn't be further apart, when the city needs them the most. Now, ever since this movie come out, I absolutely loved it. I think it's one of the best Ninja Turtle films made, apart from the first film. And I think generally, all Turtle fans seem to love this film and rank it up there with the first movie. Now, I do think a few people had issues with the character designs, mainly the turtles themselves. Some thought they were oddly shaped. Their faces and their feet and hands looked out of proportion. And the way they moved almost looked frog-like, like they were Teenage Mutant Ninja frogs almost. Now, I think it was just something to get used to, because after years of watching this movie, I actually like the design now. It's different, but I like it. I remember when I first saw the trailer for this, and I was hyped to see the Ninja Turtles in CGI for the first time, and this film did not disappoint. It's got everything. It's got action, humour, heart, and above all, a good story, and that's why this movie is solid. Now, as I said before, I'm not sure if this movie was intended to be a direct follow-on from the live-action trilogy, or just a loose follow-on, but there are some scenes that feature some really cool Easter eggs. There is one scene where we get to see the Ninja Turtles trophy room from their past adventures. You get to see the Shredder's helmet sat there on the shelf. You get to see the time travel scepter from the Ninja Turtles 3 movie, and you also get to see an empty canister of the ooze from TCRI sat right there on the shelf next to all these other items. You also get to see some Japanese armour, which may or may not be the same armour they wore in the third film. It's unclear. But there are quite a few other things in that trophy room as well, which I didn't recognise. But if you're a Turtle fan, maybe you would be able to spot a few things in there and tie them to some kind of Ninja Turtle adventure that you've either read or seen in the cartoon. Now, just going back to whether this movie is a follow-on to any of the other movies, I'm gonna sway towards probably not. I think they just pay a lot of fan service into this film, and that is fantastic. They hint at some kind of battle between the Turtles and the Shredder that had gone on in the past that probably we don't know about, never got to see. But like I said, it is said that the Turtles did defeat Shredder in battle. Whether they want you to tie it to a previous film that you've seen or a cartoon, or just kind of accept that the Shredder was defeated in a part of the story that we just don't get to see. But I will say this, that this movie also had a lot of loose ends. The movie was always hinting at future movies. We had Karai promising the return of Shredder, and when the movie finished, it just felt like there was more to say. Now, it was rumoured that there were sequels planned, which saw Mikey join the Foot Clan, but with good intentions. The other Turtles would have travelled to Japan and eventually face the Shredder once again, but this movie never did see the light of day. There was also talks of Dimension X and the Technodrome, which would have been interesting, but no Rocksteady and Bebop due to copyrights once again. So I'm guessing this movie didn't do as well as they wanted it to, and that's a shame because it would have been nice to see a sequel to this film and see where they would have gone with the story, but it didn't happen. But at least we got one good movie out of it that a lot of Ninja Turtle fans seem to enjoy, and I for one am very happy we got it. And if you haven't seen this film, I do recommend you seek it out and give it a go, even though I've just told you most of the plot. It's a very good film, and you should seek it out and give it a watch. Now, before we go any further, it is worth mentioning that round about this time, Kevin Eastman had sold his partnership or ownership to the Turtles to Peter Laird. Now, Peter swore he would never ever sell the rights. He was passionate about his creation, about the Ninja Turtles, and they were his baby. You can understand why he would never ever want to sell the rights. That is until Nickelodeon offered Peter £60 million for the rights. And of course, he took it and sold the rights to Nickelodeon on the condition that he was still allowed to create a certain amount of comic books per year. So, after the 2009 Turtles Forever nostalgic movie, we only had to wait roughly around 3 years before Nickelodeon released their animated series, and believe me, this series, in my opinion, was on par with the 2003 series. It was absolutely fantastic. And so now let's discuss the 2012 Nickelodeon TV series of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so, like I said, it was 2012 when the TMNT would find their way back to our TV screens, and this time it was in CGI. And I must admit, just like the 2007 movie we just discussed, it took some getting used to. The designs seemed a little off, but in the end I actually got used to it, just like I did with the movie. This fast become one of my favourite interpretations of the Ninja Turtles. It's just as good as the 2003 series with some significant changes. First of all, we have the origin story that's actually fleshed out more and more as the series goes on. Spoilers, if you don't know already, this is the origin that has been pieced together from different episodes. And so in this version of the origin story, Splinter is human before he is ever mutated, which, as you know from what I've said in the past, I hated it when Splinter was a rat first. In this, Splinter's a human, so it's already got my vote. Oh, and just like the 1987 series, Splinter is also Mato Yoshi in this. We actually see Tang Shen included into this series as well, and we also see Shredder's lust for Tang Shen. And in this cartoon, we actually get told that the Shredder is responsible for killing Tang Shen and burns down Splinter's home. Very, very strong stuff for a Saturday morning cartoon, as you may agree. We would never have got that in the 1987 cartoon. So, like I said, in this version, Shredder kills Tang Shen and then burns down Splinter's home. But here is a big twist to really mix things up in this TV series. Shredder actually imprisons Splinter and forces him to watch as Shredder walks out with Hamato Yoshi's and Tang Shen's baby daughter. Something that I believe had never been done in any Ninja Turtle story. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that has never been done in any Ninja Turtle story up to this cartoon coming out. And so it's revealed that this version of Hamato Yoshi and Tang Shen have actually had a baby daughter, and Shredder actually takes delight in torturing Hamato Yoshi by showing him that he intends to bring up Hamato Yoshi and Tang Shen's daughter as his own whilst Splinter is imprisoned. But wait, there's more. There's actually another twist. Splinter's stolen daughter is actually Karai in this. That's right, Splinter's daughter is Karai. And then of course Splinter and the Ninja Turtles become mutated later on in the story. After the human version of Hamato Yoshi confronts some Krang robots down a back alley whilst holding a bowl of baby turtles, and in an accident they all get mutated. And in this version, Splinter seems like a younger, taller, more agile version of the mutated rat than we have ever seen. In short, he is a complete badass. His fight scenes are absolutely brilliant. Also, this version of Shredder is also 100% villain. Don't turn your back on this Shredder, he will just gut you. This version of the Turtles also incorporates lots of elements of the comics, just as the 2003 series did. Not only the comics, but the 1987 TV show as well. So you get like a mix of the comic books and the 1987 TV show in one. This TV series sees the return of Rob Paulsen, who voiced Raphael in the 1987 series. In this series, he is back, but this time playing the voice of Donatello, which I absolutely loved when I first heard it. I thought, what an interesting thing to do to give him the voice of a different turtle, instead of having him voice Raphael again. And I also read somewhere that Rob Paulsen actually rang Barry Gordon, who played the voice of Donatello in the 1987 series, just to ask his blessing. I thought that was a really nice touch by Rob Paulsen. He actually sounds like a really nice guy. Now, as I said, they reference the 1987 cartoon quite a lot in this TV series. They also reference different TV shows, comics, and music that has been established in the past. For instance, in this version of the Ninja Turtles, when the communication devices ring, you hear the ringtone of the original Ninja Turtles theme tune. On occasion, Michelangelo can be heard saying, "Go Ninja, go Ninja, go," which is a reference to the Vanilla Ice song, which was played in The Secret of the Ooze, the Ninja Turtle Part 2 movie. Also, the pose that the Turtles strike at the end of the show's main intro is identical to the original Issue 1 Mirage comic book. And we also see the return of Casey Jones in this TV series, who has also gone through quite a lot of changes. He is now a toothless young maniac who fights crime wearing a hockey mask with a skull painted on the outside of it. And like I said, he seemed to be portrayed a lot younger than these other incarnations on previous shows. And there is also a Ninja Turtle Easter egg on Casey Jones's hockey sticks for the ever-vigilant fan. If you look closely, you will actually see written on his hockey sticks the word Eastman and Laird, the creators of the Ninja Turtles, as you know. They also got the voice actor Robbie Rist, who voiced Michelangelo in all 3 live-action movies, to voice Mondo Gecko in this series. And Corey Feldman, who voiced Donatello in Turtles 1 and 3, now returns as the Ninja Turtle Slash. And then we have Leonardo, who was voiced by Jason Biggs initially. He was then replaced by Dominic Catronbone. And I've got to say at this point, I have watched this TV series with my daughter multiple times. We've watched it over and over again. She absolutely loves it. And I can say this about the voice change in Leonardo. It's really convincing. You hardly tell the difference when they do this. He did a really good job at matching the same tone and voice as Jason Biggs. I didn't notice the first time listening to it. However, later on in the series, Seth Green then takes over the voice of Leonardo in seasons 3 to 5, I think it was. And unfortunately, it was very obvious to hear that the voice was very different between the two voice actors. But here's the clever thing they did in the series. Previously to the voice actors changing over, there was an episode where Leonardo was heavily damaged in battle. He was very severely beaten up and he was unconscious. It actually mirrored the Raphael scene in the movie where they take care of him in the farmhouse. But in the cartoon, it was Leonardo who was being taken care of. And when he regained consciousness, they actually wrote it into the story that Leonardo's vocal cords were actually damaged in battle. And that explained the change in tone to his voice, which I thought was quite clever. And I never really heard of that being done before in a cartoon. I thought it was a really clever thing to do. This TV show really took off. Once again, you saw life being breathed back into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and once again you saw the toys reappear on the toy shelves, comic books, clothing, merchandise everywhere. I actually bought a lot of this toy range for my son and for my daughter. My daughter absolutely loves it, probably more than my son. I think he grew out of it eventually, but at first he very much enjoyed watching the Ninja Turtles with us, and I remember he had a Shredder figure. He had all the Ninja Turtle figures, but he had a Shredder figure as well. And I remember once we were out on the bus and he actually left it behind when we got off the bus, and I remember he was very, very upset about it, and actually replaced the figure and got him again, and he actually lost the helmet what Shredder was wearing. It just seemed like he wasn't meant to have this figure, or at least a complete figure for some reason. But as he lost interest in it, my daughter kind of took over from him, and even now to this day she still asks me to put the DVDs on and watch it with her. And as a parent, as a child who grew up with the 1987 series, I love the fact that she wants to watch it with me, and I cherish these days before she gets too old and before she gets bored of them. Hopefully she won't. Hopefully she'll be just like me. Now, like I said, the series followed the route of the comic books in some sense. We saw the Turtles retreat back to the farmhouse like we did in the 2003 series. We saw the Turtles having adventures in space with the Triceratons. We saw the Futuretoid again introduced into this cartoon. We saw the introduction of the Samurai Rabbit, Usagi Yojimbo. I hope I pronounced that right. And like once again, we saw a lot of the famous comic book characters make their way into this animated TV series, and it was a delight to watch. Now, you remember the Turtles Forever film that we mentioned earlier on, where the 2003 Turtles meet the 1987 Turtles? Well, they do a similar thing in this show as well, where the CGI Ninja Turtles meet the 1987 Turtles. And when the 1987 Turtles are transported into the CGI world, they actually become CGI characters. Vice versa, when the CGI Turtles get transported into the 1987 world, they become the old-style hand-drawn cartoon drawings, which was really cleverly done. And once again, it was really fun to revisit those old